As my regular viewers know, towards the end of December last year, I bought a new truck, and today it got its first ever oil change of factory, oil and filter. And normally I work on everything myself, but when I bought this thing, they included some free oil changes, and I used the first one today. So what we're gonna do is we're going to cut open this here fine, gently used oil filter. The point is we're gonna see how much stuff is in here. Alright, so for those that don't know, this diaper looking thing that we're working on is an oil absorbing pad. These things can soak up, I don't know, 25 times their weight in oil or something ridiculous. So it's great for putting down when you spill stuff in the shop. I keep them around for that. And they're also great because you can put them down on your workbench and work on something oily like what we're doing, and it doesn't make everything into a massive, just sloppy disaster zone. So I don't think there's really that much to see here. The base of this looks about how I would expect. However, there are some like little particles in here, particles beyond what I would expect that air hammer to produce in the cutting process. However, they're very, very small, and I would expect they're going to be a lot like what we see actually down inside of this oil filter, because I've only done this once, but I did learn a lot the one time that I did do it, for anybody that watched the Kubota oil filter teardown. So you can see in here just a few little specks down in there. This, however, I will say, this flat surface here actually does feel like it's a little thicker than the filter that the Kubota had. I know it's a random comparison, you know, comparing a truck oil filter to one for a tractor with half as many cylinders, but it's like the only comparison I got, so that's what we're using. Ooh boy. Alright. It looks like the adhesive is actually stronger than the material here, because you can see we are removing this material like it's tearing as I rip it up. It's not the glue failing, it's the pleating itself. And actually, I guess it's a little bit of a mixture of pleating and glue that we're breaking. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because I made it a point to hose these down with some more brake clean so we're not getting any particles on here. Alright, so this is the inside of the filter, which appears to be the clean side. I think that's pretty standard, but again, we're kind of learning together here. And honestly, guys, I do not see even one single speck in here. But we'll just inspect the whole thing. It's probably kind of boring to watch, but if I like speed this up or whatever, people are like, oh, you know, just hiding crap or whatever, because evidently someone somewhere would, I don't even know. But anyway, doesn't really matter because there is nothing in here. Again, I do not see one single tiny speck. And this pleating material, it is so much heavier duty than what was in the tractor, and that kind of makes me feel better about having essentially a smaller amount of oil relative to the displacement number of cylinders to contaminate, because in theory at least, the more oil an engine has, the longer it can, you know, run, and the more contaminants and filth it can absorb. Okay, so now this is the dirty side. This is where we're gonna find stuff. I see one tiny little piece of grit here, a few tiny little pieces down in here. Do not see anything in this fold. What's odd is here there's some orange paint. I don't think this is from my paint marker mark, because that was like on the end of the oil filter, and so that really shouldn't be in here. But when we did the Kubota, we found some blue paint, so maybe the manufacturers, like, that's, if a part passes quality control, they put a dot with a paint marker on it or something. It's just a theory. See, here's more orange. Couple teeny tiny little flakes, just some general pieces of grit in here. There's a piece of yellow paint. That's a little odd. Doesn't feel gritty through the gloves, so they're not big chunks. At least not that big. More yellow paint, more orange paint. Some general teeny tiny specks of grit. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but this is like literally pinhead sized chunks of stuff in here. And there's really not that many of them. Now you got to keep in mind, this is not a level surface. It's all really wavy, so you have to be careful that you don't see this as being like completely covered in little chunks, thus giving it the wavy appearance. You can see that's the filter itself, so I wiped the oil off. A few more tiny little specks in here. That's the biggest speck so far. That's a piece of metal. I think it is. It's like a quarter the size of a pencil tip. This appears to be, this doesn't open, so, well, yeah, I mean, that's that. That's the, where one part meets the other. All right, let's see, more orange paint. Few tiny little specks of stuff. Yellow paint. Honestly, these specks, they're so small, they're hard to see even with the naked eye. I don't know how much of this the camera's really getting, but wow, there is pretty much nothing at all in here. Oh, here's some stuff. Here's like multiple flakes of yellow paint and a piece of metal grit. But still, I mean, you gotta realize this is like all the wear in from all the manufacturing processes and whatever dust got in at the factory. And I mean, this is like next to spotless. I think there's actually more chunks of orange and yellow paint in here than there are chunks of metal. There's a chunk of metal. You can probably see that one on camera. Yeah, there's another one. But wow, I mean, there is pretty much nothing in here. Another piece of orange paint, orange paint, orange paint. This is great. Gloves now, however, not so much. Dudes, that was wonderful. There was pretty much nothing on the inside of this oil filter. And I don't say that figuratively. I mean, there literally was hardly anything on the inside of that oil filter. So, I think this is great. You know, like I said in the video where we took apart the oil filter on this thing, the video making part of me wants to open this up and it's just full of rank, nasty, gritty filth. But the part of me who actually owns the piece of equipment is quite happy with how this has turned out. But we got to look at this together, and if you ever wondered how much stuff is in a break-in oil filter on either this or my 6.7 Ford, basically nothing, just about. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more.